Welcome along to the Deep Dive. We're back with our Wisdom Unveiled series, and this is number 14 out of 15 deep dives.
Getting close to the end of this particular journey.
We are, and today our focus is squarely on Hakim Abu Kulsum Ferdowsi. We're trying to move, beyond just the amazing epic stories of the Shahnameh that many people know.
Right. The goal here is really to get under the skin of it, to uncover the, let's say, the profound philosophical and ethical heart that beats within those tales.
And we're doing that by looking through the lens of Iranian philosophers like Dr. Ibrahim Dinani and Dr. Esmail Manzuri Larijani. Their perspective is key here.
Absolutely. They don't just see the Shahnameh as, like, ancient history or legend. For them, it's genuinely a source of wisdom, guidance for how to live.
So yeah, our mission today is to unpack some of those specific, deeper layers, the ethical signposts, the spiritual thoughts that these philosophers find woven into Ferdowsi's verses.
Thinking about the Shahnameh as a guide for life, essentially.
Exactly. Now, before we really jump in, we do need to mention something quickly.
Ah, yes, the disclaimer.
Right. This deep dive, it's a translation and reproduction of conversations, mainly featuring Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani. And, well, translating complex philosophical ideas isn't always straightforward.
Nuances can get lost.
Yeah, so some concepts or maybe specific details might not come across perfectly. We just wanted to acknowledge that and apologize in advance if there are any discrepancies because of the translation.
It's tricky stuff, even in the original language, so it's good to keep that in mind.
Okay, with that said, let's start with how these philosophers actually frame Ferdowsi himself. Because it's not just poet, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. The term Hakim is so important here. They see him first and foremost as a sage.
A sage, meaning someone with real deep wisdom, right? Not just clever writing.
Precisely. Deep, profound wisdom. Now, he was certainly also a master craftsman with language, and adib, no doubt about that, but they also stress another role.
Which is?
A social reformer. A Muslim.
Wow, okay. A reformer. That really shifts how you read him, doesn't it? It's not just stories, it's active guidance.
Exactly. The idea is his work wasn't just for entertainment or preserving history. It had a definite purpose to ethically improve the society of his time, and maybe ours too.
And what's underpinning all of this, according to them?
His faith. They argue very strongly that Ferdowsi was a complete monotheist, a true Muslim. Some even suggest specifically a perfect Shia.
So this deep faith, this devotion to God, it's not separate from the poetry.
Not at all. They see it permeating everything, every story, every line. It's the foundation.
The whole epic is built on this spiritual bedrock, then.
That's the view. And they look back at earlier scholars, too, like Qazi Nur al-Shushtari. His interpretation was that the entire Shahnameh, all its vastness, fundamentally points towards two things.
Okay, what are they?
The mob of the origin, the source of everything.
God.
Yes. And the return, our ultimate end, the journey back to God.
So all the famous bits, the kings, the heroes, Rostam's battles, they're not the main event.
They're seen as, the term used is bahana, pretexts. A captivating narrative, sure, a brilliant framework.
But the real cargo, the purpose,
is to discuss the deeper stuff. Ethics, virtue, kindness, devotion to God. The stories are like, a beautiful vessel carrying this really precious cargo.
Like you mentioned Khosrow's ethical advice earlier, the story draws you in, but the core is about living right. The narrative serves the wisdom.
It completely reorients how you approach it. And if the stories are vehicles for deeper meaning, then the language itself must be working on different levels too, right?
A sage's words wouldn't just be literal, I suppose.
Exactly. This perspective holds that a sage's words always carry an inner meaning, a batin, an internal dimension.
Okay, like a hidden layer.
Sort of. And within that batin, you find ram symbols and ishara signs, pointers towards something beyond the literal surface.
So it's coded, in a way.
Not necessarily coded like a secret message, but layered. The idea is that for a true sage, their speech isn't just constructed. It flows from their soul, their deep inner being.
Ah, so the depth of the speaker creates the depth in the words.
Right. But here's the crucial part. To actually perceive those deeper layers, to get the bandot, the symbols, the listener needs their own inner depth, their zarf capacity.
So it's a two-way street. The text has depth, but the reader needs the capacity to receive it. You could miss it otherwise.
You could totally miss it. It's like tuning a radio. You need to be on the right frequency to hear the broadcast clearly. Or planting a seed, it needs fertile soil, not barren rock, which they call shar.
And Ferdowsi himself hinted at this.
Apparently so. He actually referred to understanding his work as being on the path of symbols, kind of inviting readers to look beneath the surface. He flagged it himself.
Okay, that sets the stage. Let's connect this idea of layers and hidden meaning to something concrete, like that spring poem, the Bahari, they discuss.
Yes, the spring poem. It's described as nature revealing a hidden secret, a raz.
How so?
Well, think about it. Spring brings life, blossoms bursting out of what looked like dead, dark earth. That's nature unveiling its inner potential, its secret. They see this as a kind of relative resurrection, a restakis.
A resurrection in nature.
Yeah, and they contrast this with the final resurrection, the Hash Kubra, the day when all secrets, Sarer, will finally be revealed. No more hiding.
Unlike in society, where people often wear masks, they mentioned that analogy, person related to mask or niqab.
It's a powerful image, isn't it? That our social selves are often coverings. But on that final day, the masks come off. Everything is laid bare.
And the spring poem also captures that mix in life, right? The nightingale.
Ah, yes, the nightingale, the blob on the rose, the gull. It's described as singing gayad, but also lamenting or moaning moyad.
So even in beauty and joy, there's a note of sorrow, or maybe longing.
Exactly. It reflects that life, this world, it's a blend. Joy and sorrow mixed together. Just like spring itself contains the seeds of autumn, beauty contains a hint of impermanence.
That duality is woven right in, which leads, I guess, to thinking about time itself. That line, youth is a spring that does not repeat.
Powerful line. Youth is painted as life's best season, brimming with energy and potential, but it only happens once.
And it's not just about being young, biologically, is it? It's a metaphor for all opportunities.
I think so. It represents those moments, those chances in life that come and go. Once passed, they don't return.
They mention another quote, maybe from Saidi, about, "Many springs shall come when we are dust." That really drives it home.
It does. It highlights just how fleeting our individual time is. Our physical presence, even our memory, is temporary in the grand sweep of things.
Unless that life is connected to something lasting, like goodness or wisdom.
That's the implication. The real wisdom is recognizing this precious, non-renewable nature of time and, seizing the day, especially the chance to cultivate your inner life.
Use the time well. Now, another big theme running through Ferdowsi, according to these thinkers, is conflict, battle, but not just external wars.
Right. They really emphasize that while, yes, there are external conflicts depicted, the main battle, the most critical one for every human being, is internal.
Inside ourselves.
Inside. It's the constant struggle against what they call the nafs al-amara, the commanding self.
Okay, what is that exactly?
It's that part of us driven by base desires,
Yeah.
raw impulses, the ego demanding satisfaction, constantly pulling us away from virtue, from our higher potential.
The inner wild horse, maybe?
That's a good way to put it. And yes, they acknowledge external tempters too, like Armin or Satan. But the outcome hinges on that internal fight.
And winning isn't easy.
No. They believe it requires divine support, Tayyid ilahi, sometimes called Farah or Didahi, a kind of divine grace or confirmation. Without that help, overcoming the nafs is seen as incredibly difficult, maybe even impossible on our own.
Okay, if the battle is internal and God is purely good, this brings us back to that classic question. Where does badness or evil actually come from? How does Ferdowsi, through their reading, answer that?
They're quite clear on this based on his text. It rests on a principle sometimes called suitability. From absolute good, only good can truly originate. God is the source of pure good.
So badness can't come from God.
No. According to this view, the source of what we experience as evil or misfortune isn't God. It originates in, us. In human actions and choices that deviate from God's will, often driven by that very nafs al-amara.
Our wrong turns create the problems.
Essentially. And figures like Ahriman, they're not seen as a rival power to God, not a co-equal force of evil. Ahriman is a created being, a tempter. His influence only works if we give in, if we have weaknesses he can exploit. God has no competitor.
That's a very specific theological position. Okay, let's shift to ethics and practice. They draw a really key distinction about goodness.
Yes, between Hassan Faili and Hassan Faili, it's crucial.
Break that down for us.
Okay, Hassan Faili is the goodness of the action itself, the outward act. Giving charity, helping someone in need, the deed, looks good on the surface.
Got it. The act.
Hassan Faili is the goodness of the doer, the person performing the action. It's about their inner state, their intention. Why are they doing the good deed?
Ah, okay. So you could do a good deed, Hassan Faili, but if your intention, Hassan Faili, is corrupt, say, you're doing it just for show, for reputation, or to manipulate someone, then the act lacks true inner goodness.
Precisely. The ideal, the most praiseworthy situation is when both align. A good action stemming from a genuinely good, pure intention. They link this to the Quranic praise for secret charity giving without seeking recognition, suggests the motive is purer, aimed at pleasing God, not people. That shows the Hassan Feely.
Okay, makes sense. So pulling this together, what's the core ethical rule or path Ferdowsi lays out? The path to what they called Rustigar, eternal salvation.
It's distilled into something beautifully direct. Incline towards goodness, do not harm anyone.
Simple, yet profound.
Yeah.
And anyone means.
It's interpreted very broadly, not just other humans, but animals, the environment, all of creation. It's a really holistic, encompassing ethic. Don't cause harm, period.
And the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. Our actions show our true colors.
Absolutely. They cite Ferdowsi directly here. The head of goodwill is your action, which is the mirror of your religion and thought. Your deeds are the ultimate reflection of your inner beliefs and character. What you do matters most.
This ties into their image of the ideal person, maybe like Rostam.
Yes, Rostam often exemplifies Javanmardi, which isn't just being young or chivalrous, it's a deeper quality of character.
Like what?
Bravery, sure, but also integrity, a willingness to sacrifice for others, that's Isar, uprightness, and crucially, standing up against injustice. It's a very noble ideal.
And they contrast this with maybe more modern self-interested views.
They do suggest it's a contrast. And significantly, the story has the Simorgh, that mythical bird training Zal, who then trained Rostam. The Simorgh symbolizes spiritual ascent, divine teaching, Talim Alawi.
So the ideal isn't just human-made, it has a divine stamp of approval.
Exactly. It suggests this Javanmardi ideal is rooted in, or at least confirmed by, something higher. That divine support, again, Taid Ilahi, it elevates the whole concept.
Interesting connection. They also pointed out Ferdowsi's choice of words for God, using both Kurtar and Parvardigar. Why is that significant?
Good point. Kurtar generally emphasizes God as the initial creator, the one who brought things into being, like the first cause.
Okay.
But Parvardigar carries the sense of nourisher, sustainer, provider, the one who is continuously involved, nurturing creation, providing grace, overseeing everything moment by moment.
So using both paints a picture of God not just as the creator who stepped back.
Right, not the distant watchmaker. It emphasizes an ongoing, present, nurturing, sustaining divine force, a much more intimate relationship.
That fits with the idea of needing divine support.
Okay, this theme of the inner life shaping our outward experience, it comes back really strongly when they talk about thoughts and feelings creating our world.
Yes, this is one of the most practical takeaways, I think. They see Ferdowsi showing a direct link between the quality of your inner world, your thoughts, your assumptions, especially negative ones, Suzanne, your emotional state, and how you actually experience life.
How so? Well, things like constant negative thinking, envy, harboring bad assumptions about others, Suzanne, having a generally narrow, pessimistic outlook. They call this state tangi, constriction.
Like the world feels tight, small, difficult.
Exactly that. And this feeling arises from your inner state regardless of your external circumstances. You could be outwardly successful, but feel trapped in tangi.
And the opposite.
The opposite is faraki, spaciousness, expansiveness, ease. And this comes from cultivating good thoughts, developing wisdom, they call it akwi roshan, bright intellect, maintaining a broad perspective, and importantly, practicing islatu siha, presuming goodness in others, giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Ferdowsi's line was something like, don't do things that make the world narrow for you, even though it's spacious.
That's the one. It directly links your inner choices to your perceived reality. Wisdom, that akwi roshan, is key to breaking free from tangi and finding that inner faraki, that spaciousness.
Your inner landscape dictates the view. Powerful. Now, beyond the general struggle with the nafs, they singled out specific inner enemies too.
Yes, two particularly dangerous ones. Ghazab, which is anger, intense, uncontrolled rage,
Okay.
and shahawat, which is more than just desire. It's excessive, insatiable wanting, an unbridled appetite for pleasure, possessions, status, a craving that's never really satisfied.
And these get worse with power, right?
Absolutely. Power gives these inner enemies free rein to cause external damage. The more power, the greater the potential for destruction if anger and insatiable desire aren't mastered.
They use that king and dervish story to illustrate this.
Yes, it's a classic illustration. The king might rule a kingdom, have immense external power, but be utterly enslaved by his own anger, ghazab, and desires, shahawat.
A slave on a throne.
Pretty much.
Right.
Whereas the dervish, who might seem poor and powerless outwardly, but who has mastered his inner self, who controls his anger and desires, he's the true master.
Right.
Real power, real kingship is self-mastery.
A total flip of how we usually think about power. Another really interesting philosophical point they raised was kabiliyat, capacity or readiness.
Ah, yes, the capacity of the recipient. This is so important. It's the idea that you can offer grace, teaching, help, wisdom. But if the person receiving it doesn't have the inner capacity, the readiness, the kabiliyat to accept it.
It's wasted, like pouring water on stone.
Exactly. Or like trying to plant that seed in barren ground, the shar. The potential is there in the seed, the grace, the teaching. But the ground isn't ready. Nothing takes root.
So divine gifts, or even just help from others, are always available, but we only receive them according to our capacity.
Equazero kabiliyat, that's the phrase. According to the measure of one's capacity. Which puts the onus back on us, doesn't it? We need to cultivate our inner ground, prepare the soil within, develop our zarf, our capacity, to be able to receive the good things life or God offers.
It's an active process of self-development. It's fascinating, too, how these deep ideas seem to connect to cultural practices, like Nowruz, the Persian New Year.
They make that connection very strongly. They see Nowruz not just as a holiday party, but as embodying this principle of continuous ethical renewal.
Like that saying, if you're good, every day is Nowruz.
Exactly. The customs associated with Nowruz directly reflect Ferdowsi's ethical teachings. Forgiving past wrongs, reconciling differences, actively letting go of negative assumptions, Suzanne, about others.
Replacing tangi with faraki in a way, presuming goodness, isalatu siha, to create that spaciousness between people.
Precisely. And also the custom of paying attention to the poor and needy, sharing wealth that connects directly to Ferdowsi's advice to sow seeds of goodness and kindness. The cultural tradition becomes a living path.
The layered meanings, life's duality, the inner battle, ethics of action and intention, God's relationship with creation, inner state shaping reality, capacity, cultural reflections. What's the bottom line? The ultimate enduring message they pull from Ferdowsi.
I think it boils down to the lasting value of goodness and wisdom above absolutely everything else. Wealth, power, fame, these are fleeting. They decay.
They quoted something like, for goodness, nothing else remains.
Nothing remains for people of insight generosity.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. The core idea is that only the impact of a genuinely good life, the light of wisdom cultivated and shared, truly endures beyond our short time here. That's the real legacy.
A powerful message indeed. This has been, well, a really deep dive, revealing just how much wisdom is packed into Ferdowsi's work, especially when viewed through the interpretations of thinkers like Dr. Dinani and Dr. Larijani.
It really shows the Shahnameh as more than just epic poetry. It's a comprehensive guide, you could say, for navigating life.
From the biggest questions about reality and God, down to the nitty-gritty of ethics and managing our own minds.
Wisdom meant to be applied, definitely.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this particular deep dive, here's maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to take away. It connects back to those powerful concepts of tangi and faraki, that feeling of inner constriction versus inner spaciousness. Think about your own life right now. Are there parts of it that feel, well, narrow, stuck, difficult? Could it be, perhaps, as this reading of Ferdowsi suggests, that the path to creating more spaciousness, more ease, more faraki in your world lies within?
Looking inward first.
Yeah. Could exploring your own assumptions, challenging those negative ones, the Suzanne-sar, or consciously working on those inner battles with anger, gazab, or that insatiable wanting, shahawat, could that be the key to unlocking a wider, freer experience of life?
Something definitely worth pondering.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us for this exploration.
Thank you. This is another deep dive in our Wisdom Unveiled series.